Previously in Enterprise, the new chief engineer managed to break the Enterprise. Now back to the story. So the ship is flying off at warp 5.2, trying not to explode. So Archer grudgingly has to find Reed and explain about the invasive program that's going to destroy them all soon. Now, Trip knows how to fix this particular problem. I suppose if you spill enough old Milwaukee on the engine, you're experienced with anything that can go wrong with it. But the problem is they've got to get him over here somehow. Only they can't drop out of warp, that would blow them up. And the transporter, that's still new technology. They can't use that on him unless they want to spray him all over the side of the ship. So the only choice now is to do a warp speed transfer. And that's why Archer is in here, because that's something that Reed can do. He's got experience with it. Well, he was trained to do it anyway. At warp 1, after careful rehearsal of all parties involved for weeks. And he did it in a simulator.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So, Reed takes his place while Columbia flies in, having to flip around so they're belly to belly, enveloping each other in a single warp field to contain both ships while the penetration is made, going at unbelievable speed until finally the payload is magnificently delivered.
Almost sexual, isn't it, Smithers?
So, Trip makes his, trip, barely making it before the tether housing rips free, but now he's here, and he can fix this. Only he knows the secret of how to deal with this unstoppable Klingon invasive program that threatens to rip them to pieces or blow them apart. And so he asks the only question...
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
I've got more relevant clips from other works than from Enterprise, huh? So while that happens, Columbia still needs to fly close enough to keep Enterprise in its warp bubble, and Tucker shuts the whole damn reactor down, and then, dramatically, restarts it while the clock runs down. Well, with that out of the way, I think we can move on to something that has been a long time coming. The aftermath of Phlox getting a beating.
My apologies for the general conduct. So crude. This is no way to treat a man of science.
Now a civic engineer, on the other hand, give him a good beating, I say. But he's not just here to talk about how pummeling scientists is a bridge too far for him. He was looking at the results of some of Phlox's work and has an answer. A change that can be introduced so that the virus stops at what they call Stage 1, resulting in the changes to appearance, but not progressing to Stage 2, the part that turns you into a super Klingon. Which sucks for their weapons program, but manages to avoid going to Stage 3, the kill you horribly stage, where all your advanced intelligence can tell you is that you're royally screwed. Of course, General Kavag is not going to be terribly happy that they're stopping at Stage 1 and not Stage 2, and giving him his augments to go and wage war and all that stuff, but, what's you going to do? Not prevent the pandemic from wiping out his own people? He's not that dumb. No, he'll probably just torture these two to death, so, nothing to worry about. Back on Enterprise, now that the crisis is over, Archer wants to have another talk with Reed. T'Pol reconstructed all the communications from Shady Guy that Reed had erased, and also all that dwarf porn collection. Not that he's here to judge Reed, he just as a friend wants to let him know he has an addiction. The guy is a former security member of Starfleet named Harris, whose file ends 5 years ago, but without explanation. And Archer figures that he must have some kind of hold on Reed here. Blackmail, leverage, a supply of underworld dwarf porn, something that is forcing Reed to betray his duty. But Reed insists that he's acting under legitimate orders. So Archer wants to talk to this guy and tells Reed to make the call for him. While he deals with that, Antak and Phlox delve into their backstories, how Antak's father disowned him for breaking with the family tradition of being a warrior and became a healer instead. Although thanks to his screwing up this augment thing, he's killed a lot more than he would have as a warrior, so, kudos for that. The other half is the nature of the augments that Soong had struggled with, the heightened aggression that led to their violent and rebellious nature against those who wanted to control or at least be allied with them. That's part of these augments because of the limited understanding of the scientists of the time. Now, since the Klingons can't even stop their people from losing their bumpy foreheads, it's doubtful that they thought to remove the mistakes that Soong was trying to correct. We already see, as the strike team returns from Enterprise, that they need to be reminded to show the general the respect of his position. It's a small thing, but you know that they're going to go into the bathroom soon and write, Kavag, Kavag, fat Klingon hog, smells like a bog and looks like a frog. Kavag calls up the High Council with the news that they're close to perfecting this augment process, so they give him until the ships arrive at the colony to come up with a solution. which is very nice of them, promising not to kill them before they have the chance to kill them. I think that's generous of them. And with that, we begin collecting random conversations. Archer tells Tucker that things are complicated with Reed. T'Pol feels Tucker out about the weird trip into the White Void. The General tells Phlox that his son was selected for the augment process, even though it was risky and experimental. And Reed talks with that son about the nature of war and duty. The members of that guy's unit aren't too happy that they're dying while they look like a bunch of freaks, but the General tells them not to worry. As long as he lives, they will work to stabilize their condition and never allow them to be cast out of Klingon society. Which I know would be comforting if he wasn't about to volunteer for a life-and-death medical experiment on himself. You'll be perfectly safe as long as I'm alive. Now, have you seen my cigarettes? You know, the ones I lace with nitroglycerin for that little extra kick? I left them on that stack of letters from the Mafia about all the money I owe them. Bunch of blowhards. Well, Archer finally gets a call back from Harris, who explains that Phlox's kidnapping is part of a mission that's important to Starfleet, an extreme measure authorized under Article 14, Section 31. Yep, Reed's a part of that. He's OG when it comes to Starfleet's secret intelligence group. As Section 31, Harris isn't going to be given up very many answers. He only acknowledges that Reed's worked for them in the past, and that what Phlox is doing is so serious they can't risk any interference. Translation, we can't risk your usual fat-fingered incompetence on this one, so go watch some water polo. Back at the colony, Phlox has the answer down to one of 4 vials. It's a little game I like to play. Figuring out which of these is the cure and which ones are going to kill you would take a week of ethical research, but ethics are for people who believe in things like, say, napkins, so that's tossed right out the window.
The only possible way to get results on Krell's schedule is to infect 4 healthy Klingons.
You have 4 right here.
Only one of these strains will work, the other 3 will be lethal.
Yeah, on second thought, General, I'd have a touch of something. I should probably go lie down right now. So the 4 of them, including Antak and the General himself, will each be injected and we'll see who survives. It's half reality show, half game show. Networks are going to buy that one. They'll be getting a visit from Enterprise soon because Archer and Reed finally hashed this out. That this disease will destabilize the Klingon Empire, and that's not in Starfleet's interests. Hence the need for Phlox to cure it. And while Reed doesn't know where he is, he does know which colony is the most likely place for it to happen. And that with the Klingons enforcing a quarantine, Enterprise and Columbia should run into minimal defenses. Harris is indeed cooperating with the Klingons and calls up the representative of the High Council, who is on the way to bomb the colony. Harris mentions that the Klingons were the ones who failed this time, which means that either they told him that they were just going to disable it, or he was willing to let it be destroyed. I'm inclined to think the former, since he doesn't seem pleased at the idea of the head honcho, Admiral Krell, using his fleet to destroy Enterprise and Columbia. But with Section 31, you never can be certain, can you? I mean, they're probably not fans of loose cannons, and Archer, he's mounted his cannon on a bunch of well-oiled casters. They arrive just when Phlox is determined that the General's strain is the cure, but he's going to withdraw a sample from him to save Antak. Archer barges in to interrupt things, thus kind of proving the point that he'd only get in the way. Phlox finally persuades him, though, to let him treat a plague, just for once, for the novelty of it. Well, it doesn't make a difference because Krell plans to bomb the colony anyway, on the grounds of explosions are fun. So to speed up the process, Phlox is going to replicate the virus inside of Archer while Enterprise and Columbia keep Krell's forces busy. Once they have that, they beam the disease up to Krell's ship to infect all of them, meaning that if he destroys the colony, they'll all die too. Now, it's a hard choice. Today is a good day to die after all, but probably not like this. So thanks to this, the plague is continuing to spread, but not kill people, leaving the Klingons with smooth foreheads going forward. Section 31 is happy as well, but Reed says he's had enough, and he is done with them for good. Good luck with that. Post-episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to whoever added a targ to the plot. How much money did we waste on that CGI effect for that thing running around, when this episode could have used that so many other ways? Affliction and Divergence were created to finally offer the canonical explanation some fans were asking for about the Klingons' makeup change, which went forward with some mixed results. I'm not opposed to the idea of explaining that. nor am I opposed to saying that this particular solution was the wrong way to do it. But I have to tell you, the storyline itself simply isn't that great. The notes sound fine if you write them all down. Medical drama, conflicted loyalties, the issues around T'Pol and Tucker, all of that stuff. It'd be a fine story if you look at that, but there's just a lot of repetition in this story and not enough stuff to really give it much punch. It's a shame, but for all its concepts, it just doesn't succeed in delivering on everything. So, since all scores are relative to their series, I'm giving Affliction and Divergence both a score of 6 out of 10. It's still above average by Enterprise standards, but if it could have just found a way to be more engaging, in one way or another, whether that was character, action, drama, whatever, but as it is, it just doesn't have enough to sustain that for a 2-part story. It does raise one question, though. Is it possible that in an effort to cure the Klingon augment virus and get their bumpy foreheads back, that the Klingons of Discovery found a strain that would do that, only to cause all their hair to fall out? I wonder.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
No, I'd keep him if I were you, Captain. That makes you look intimidating.